You may feel stuck, but you're not. You may be spiritually constipated. So let's give you a shot of spiritual Exlax to uncork your brilliance that you've been holding in for so long. Because the world can't wait any longer on us. It cannot stop anymore based on all of our sexy excuses. We need to be the change that the world needs to be today. And that starts by just simply letting it out, pouring our overflow out into the world. Doesn't have to be clear, doesn't have to be clean, it just has to be. We got to start. Clarity comes from taking action. Hi, how you doing today? My name is Steve Kidd. I'm a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 38 rather, books and counting. And I've worked with 5,000 people, helping them write, publish, market their books to bestseller, and everything that comes beyond that. But what I really am is I am the architect of your transformation. I have the God given, wonderful blessing of being the person who's been placed into your life to allow you to know, not just hope, want, wish, or guess, but know who you are, what you were meant to be, and then share that with the world to show up powerfully because you are amazing. You are incredible. You are uniquely brilliant. And you absolutely do need to pour all that wonderful, yummy goodness that is you out onto a hurt and dying world because it's no longer okay. There's no longer any good reason, excuse, sexy or not, for us to not play full out or to allow somebody to continue to suffer in our silence. So let's talk about that today. Let's talk about what truth really is. You know the three C's. I've talked to you about them over and over and over again. You know, it's clarity, consistency, connection, right? Clarity, consistency, connection. They all go together. They're just one thing. The three C's are a thing. They're not three-step program. They're not a framework. They are just a way of describing how we show up in the world. We need to be clear to connect consistently to people so that we can consistently connect clearly to people. When we connect consistently, we become clear. It's all of those. All of those come together simultaneously to make the difference that only you can make in this world. Now, here's the coolest part about it. All right. Now we're sitting back on our Saturday vibe. We're talking about the hot shot of Exlax for getting us spiritually unconstipated and showing up in the world. Okay. So I want you to take all that we're doing here today and enjoy it and have fun with me today as we look at the realities of where we are and what we're doing. And we sit back, we relax, we sit here unshaved in our t-shirts. Maybe we got fuzzy slippers on, or because it's so hot outside, you're wearing shorts and not much else, you know, shorts and a t-shirt and the air conditioner's running. I just turned mine off just before we went live because you not only, and I was going to say you don't need more clarity, but the truth of the matter is it's more than just you don't need more clarity. You're not going to get any more clarity until you let what you have inside out. The problem that we all face is that we fill ourselves up beyond our max. We are overflowing. Now, sometimes we've talked about this before when we talked about overflow. Sometimes we're overflowing with all the ick and the uck and the yuck that more than anything we've put into our own self, that our own ears have heard our own mouth say about us. But we are overflowing because we've crammed so much in. And if you're like me and you're like all the people, you're who I know you are. You have taken the trainings, you're in the coaching, you've got mentors, you have people and books and learnings and all those kind of things. You've got so much of that stuff. The thing you don't have is you don't have intentional pouring out of all that you put into you. It's stagnating in the bottom of you. It's flowing out. It's eeping out, really, is probably a better word, because you don't have an intentional outlet. You don't have a consistent outlet. Um, I love it. I'm many of you may know I own a company called Alveus. Now, Alveus is basically a closed company. I mean, we still have it in existence, but it just kind of sits there as a name these days. In fact, steve@alveus.com is pretty much the only email address. I think I still have operations there too, but it's pretty much the only email address. Alveus, at one point, when I actually started there as a salesperson and then became the operations manager, and later became the owner of that company. Alveus started out as an internet service provider. Throughout the years, we've done hosting and all those kind of things. It is a tech company. It is a internet service provision company with hosting and all those services. And we go way back to the days of dial-up. And it was a perfect situation for me because it started in 1996, which is when I started in my internet journey. When it became available, it was actually a company divesting, a company that's now defunct, as part of my separation agreement with the consulting and the work that I was doing with them. I received that domain name. And the quote unquote ownership of that company. I mean, there was nothing in it at the time. And I had to revitalize it. And at that instance, it became a hosting company. And I'm telling you way too much. I'm sorry. But Alveus, I keep it. And I keep it more than anything because the word Alveus is a foreign word. I think it's Italian, but don't quote me on that. And it means wide conduit. When we did that, the original founders of it actually did that back in the days of the internet because they were talking about, really good internet connection. Now you're talking about, it founded back in the days of, the really low end modems. I mean, not 56K, not 33. We're talking like 14.4 and 2400 baud modems and things like that people were connecting the internet with. And I know I just said a whole bunch of things that you probably have no interest in and no understanding of. But going way back, they wanted to help people understand, that having good connectivity makes a difference to how you get it. Same thing's true still today. If you have a good internet connection, you know what this is like. If you have a good internet connection and you go on a live like we're doing now, or you're on a Zoom call in a conference or whatever, then it goes good. And if you don't have a good internet connection, whether that be temporarily, or, like sometimes it doesn't happen in the community I live in, because I live in a town of 400 people. And plus I have a 1 gig fiber optic connection to my door here. Amazing internet connection here in this little teeny tiny town. It's one of the other reasons why I moved here. But, often in that afternoon time when the kids are getting back from school, you may notice a lag somewhat in your internet connection. That was some of the initial things that they found that word and used it for. But I like that word for the bigger concept of conduit, okay, of a giant pipe. Now, I know I went a little bit astray there, but it's important for you to understand some of the backstory of where I came to that word, because the word Alveus means wide conduit. And I want you to think of the clarity, consistency, and connection. I want you to think of the message that you absolutely, positively, the world needs it, got to give out. I want you to think about this wide conduit. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of it. Back when I lived in Southern California, they were creating an overpass. Didn't used to exist there. It used to be like a 4 lane, and they were creating an overpass so that there didn't need to be a stop sign there anymore. Um, Long story, and it doesn't really matter. But um, the coolest part about this particular construction project, and I've never seen them do it before, and I've never seen a pipe this big before, but they brought in this like giant pipe. Now I want you to imagine a pipe that is wide enough that a 2 lane highway and a giant semi truck, so and it was round. So, I mean, if you think the width of a 2 lane highway and then you think that high. Now, I've never seen them do it this way before in construction, but it was such a great visual because as you would go off to the left to go up to where the stop sign was then still, um, you could see them building this, and they brought in this giant pipe and put it in where the road was going to go. And they put that in, and then the cement went over that, for the bridge, for the overpass, and all those kind of things. And then later on they came in, and they put in the rest of the cement reinforcement and stuff like that, and you couldn't see most of that conduit, that pipe, that great big flow channel, but it was still there. They put it in first, and then they built everything around it. And the reason why that was so cool, and the reason why I bring up Alveus and wide conduit and all that, is because I want you to envision that. Whether it's 2 lane, 4 lane, 8 lane, the wider you want, the bigger you want your highway to be. Okay, great big circular, wide enough that you can put 8 Mack trucks side by side next to them. You get to choose how big your highway is, how wide your conduit is. Okay, now you can see that. So you want to first think of that big giant pipe. Okay, as big as you can imagine. The bigger the better. I mean, go extreme. Think of a pipe that's so big that 1,000 cars could fit through it all at the same time, side by side. Okay, don't limit your imagination. All right, you got that in mind. All right, now the nature of a pipe, all right, is you have an entrance at the beginning, you have the inside of it, the middle, and then you have the exit, the end. Okay, and in order for a pipe, now I want you to think about this pipe having water flowing through it. You could think of traffic flowing through it. That's the same. Um, the nature of it, and the reason why I use water is because water, if it's completely submerged, water will fill the entire thing, regardless of how large it is. Okay, and that's where water, can be a better example. I want you to think of how big the pipe is, and I want you to think of water flowing through it. Okay, so if you crimp the beginning of the front side of it, there's only so much water that can get into it, and what ends up happening is that the backside, the exit of the pipe is not going to have any more going out of it than however big the opening has been crimped down to. All right. If you crimp the outside of it, the back, the exit side of it, what ends up happening is you create, and if you've ever done this with a hose, you put your finger over the mouth of the hose, and it, makes it squirt harder. It does the same thing. All right. It restricts the flow, therefore it creates pressure. And there's always this constant stream of pressure. Some of the pressure that you're feeling has to do with the fact that you crimped the output. You see why this constipation, why this flow, why this you got to show up and do it right now, and you need to pour out is so important? Because often what we find ourselves doing is that we've crimped that exit, and there's a lot of pressure, and that pressure begins to show up in our lives. Because what'll happen is if you have the front side of it, completely flowing through, and there's pressure at the backside, some will squirt out, but it's also going to back up. And if there's any And you can do this with a garden hose. If there's any holes in the hose and you put your thumb over the end of it and block it off completely, which is what some of us have done sometimes, is we're not flowing out at all. If there's any holes in the hose, it will, it'll start going out the holes. And that's a lot of times what happens in our life. We're just kind of spewing our stuff, squirting it all over the place, but with no focus, no direction, no intention. And it's not making any impact because it's designed to go through and to be to the person that you want to serve. But instead of doing that, it's crimped some part or completely, and it's going to all the other places that it shouldn't go. And it's also restricting how much can come in. You see, the blessings can't come into your life unless they have the ability to flow out of your life. They will eventually, stop up. Now, there's another piece of that. Okay, there's the middle. Okay, we talked about what happens if you crimp the beginning. You're not going to get enough coming in at all to have any flow out the backside. If you crimp the back, you create pressure and it creates problems. When you crimp in the middle, in other words, when we're holding on to the stuff inside of us and not letting it flow through, a lot of times this shows up in money. And we end up having problems in true abundance because we're not allowing the money to come in. We're especially not letting the money flow out. We want to hold on to it. I've got that in me, okay? I mean, we call it our dragon, all right? A dragon laying on that hoard of gold and just laying there. They're doing nothing with it. It doesn't solve anything for themselves or anybody else. It's just their gold and they're just laying on it. And we do that with the gold inside of us, with that golden message that is all of who we truly are. We're just laying on it. Just, and when you talk about that from a finance standpoint, no more money can come in, or at least a restriction of how much is coming in, and definitely a restrict because it's restricting what's going out. And here's the problem when you go back to the water analogy. I wanted you to see that with money and maybe get some insights into all of our lives, into where things kind of are a little bit right now. Now, this isn't going to apply to everybody. Some of you are great givers, and there's other things going on, all right? So I'm not trying to diagnose everybody in the world's problem. I'm just giving you some ideas about the wide conduit that you want your life to be so that you begin to really pour out. I'm trying to encourage you that you need to clearly, consistently connect with people every single day. And I want you to commit to going live every day. That's right. 7 days a week is what I'd really like to see you do. If you do 3 or less, the momentum is never really building. You got to feel that momentum in order to be able to do it. You got to invite the people like this. Come join our Visibility Amplifier community. You can go to visibilityamplifier.com. We'd love to have you. It's a free group, and it's a great place for you to get more and more clarity on how to do this and how to show up. See how that works? So, you absolutely positively need that. You need that outflow. But with that crimp in the middle, there's another thing that happens. And again, like I said, let's go back to the water flow. Any of the contaminants in the water, trash, baby diapers, whatever might be in that water, they start getting stuck around the edges of that crimp. And before you know it, the hole is getting smaller and smaller. So we crimped it down, because we needed to keep stuff for ourselves. We needed the money. We needed the information. We just weren't sharing it. This is going to apply whether the crimp's at the end or the crimp's in the middle or it's somewhere in between the beginning to all the way out. If we don't have a clearly flowing pipe, that's what begins to happen. And the trash starts to collect around it. And our head trash really starts coming in. And we start having that, what I love, my friend Ernie Villanueva used to call stinking thinking. more and more and more. And we start doubting all of the goodness, all of the things we were created, and all that we know we should be and are going to be and will be. Will be. Okay. Because it's a personal joke. I'm not explaining it. Um, See, if nothing else, amuse yourself while you're doing your lives. That's fun too. Somebody's going to now post and say, what is will be? And maybe I'll tell you and maybe I won't. I'm just going to tease you with that right now. But that trash collects more and more and more. And the hole, which was, completely wide, you crimped it down, so you could save some, so you could have some for you because it was your time, because of, all of these even good, even really sexy excuses that end up just being, we're just putting crimps in the pipe. And it was this big and we only just crimped it down like this. But the trash starts collecting around it and it collects and it collects and it collects. And pretty soon, the pipe kind of looks like that, and so, yeah, it's still almost as wide, but, there's all these little fingers in the middle. And then it just kind of starts. And before you know it, there's maybe a little light in there, maybe not. And maybe the water can find its way in and around and up and over and under and past the baby diaper and get a little bit of baby poo on it, and then when it comes out, you wonder why it stinks when it comes out. It's because of that stuff. We got to uncrimp that hose. We got to open the conduit up wide. We have to be willing to give out all that we have coming in. We need to be a channel that flows through the blessings, the grace, the message, the lessons we've learned, all of the things that make up who you are right now today. You see, you don't need another training. You don't need a speech teacher. You may, okay, and that may be something you do, but the speech teacher is only going to be as good as you're using that to speak. You can go through, and I have a good friend of mine named Brenda that is an amazing acting coach. And that's what she does. My good friend Molly Mahoney, her company started, and although she mostly talks about AI these days, her company started called Camper Confidence. It was all about being confident on camera and just going live. But the thing about it is that all the confidence, all the training, all the techniques, all the ways to learn how to not be able to say and or like as filler words in your thing does you absolutely no good if you're not constantly also speaking. Yes, get the training, get better, learn the more, but start with the where you are right now. Because you've spent your whole entire life practicing, drilling, rehearsing, learning to be exactly who you are right now. You see, true humility is the right perspective of yourself. And most of the time, we're very familiar with our failings and our faults and our failures. And we're completely unaware of our advantages, the things we're awesome at, the stuff we do, the things that nobody else can do, that we do, just without even a second thought. It's just so much a part of who we are that we just show up and do it without even, really even totally thinking about it. Right? Think about that for a second. Yes, I'm copying and pasting a link here for you while I was having you think about that. Now is the time for us to start giving what we've learned, where we are right now. You may know how to pick up a water bottle and drink water. I heard a statistic one time that by the time you're thirsty, you're already like 5% dehydrated or something like that. Now, in my particular case, when I did the measurement a year ago on my hydration level, a male is supposed to be at 65% 65% water basically. And I was at about 22%. So more than 5% dehydrated. I was, about a third of the hydration. So I was about 70% dehydrated. And you may need to just share that one thing. This is how I pick up the water bottle and I drink it. This is how I have my desk be clean. Mine isn't. That's why I said that. This is how, I use, and I have a pen over here somewhere. This is how I pick up a pen and how I write in perfect cursive. Again, something that I'm not good at all. Yet I type so much these days that some days I'm like, how do you form that letter? I remember learning it in school, but, right? How do you text with two thumbs? I don't know what your thing is. And there's more to it. And it goes deeper than that. But you got to start where you are. You got to start opening back up that conduit. Whether the crimp's at the end or in the middle or at the beginning, you got to start reopening it so that it has the full capability to flow all the water through it, all the message, even the mess, all the way through it, so that you can show up for the person that needs you. I know you feel the pressure. It's like an itch at the back of your skull that just wants to come out. And you may feel yourself saying too many down on yourself, negative kind of things. Some of that's the trash that you're allowing to collect around the edges that you've crimped in because you're not giving out. There's a psychological principle, and I've shared it with you before. It's impossible for your brain to be fully engaged in helping somebody else and in your own personal negative emotions. Fear, lack, doubt, anger, worry, those kind of things. Those are the quote unquote negative emotions. The more you focus on giving to somebody else, the less you have the ability in those moments to hang on to that. Now, you can get really good at being able to help somebody out fully with your whole heart and then be so well trained at defeating and beating yourself that you come back and start hitting yourself in the head with the hammer again as soon as you're done doing that. And I want you to stop that, okay? But it starts not by being perfect, not by another lesson, not by anything other than just giving it out, pouring it out. You've trained your whole life to be this amazingly incredible person known as you. You're 100% perfect at being exactly who you are right now. Will you get better? Absolutely. Will you learn and grow and do and be other things tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, a decade from now? Absolutely. But today is the day. Today is the day that we need to maximize. Today is the day that we need to go live. We need to share what we have right now. We got to open up that conduit wide and full and free and let everything that's ever poured into us also pour out. That's why, when silly things like will be come through my head, I just, you said will be and go on. You let it all go out. That's why I've been gut level honest with you, about the divorces that I've been through and the pains in my life and the times, even recently, that I've just completely quit my business when I feel like a total sham, about this year being really rough as far as business has been. Because who I am, where I am, what I am, exactly right here, right now, today, is exactly what you need. I don't totally know why. I know that yesterday, somebody told me that I have no idea how much I'm helping them. And they were absolutely right. I had no clue. I'm just being me. Because in the end, that's all you can be. Overflow doesn't start with confidence. It just starts with maybe a little bit of courage, but mostly just doing it. What do you know? What can you say? What could you do today? All right, so the phone is plugged in over here, but we're going to pick up the phone. Time to go live right now. Hi, my name is. I'm here to help you with. And the one thing I hope that you know more than anything else today is those three simple things. I am this. My name is. This is what I do, or this is what I know. And here's what I wish you knew. Here's what I want to help you with. Just those basic things. It's time to let the overflow, because the overflow is happening regardless. It may just be springing out the sides or squirting back out the front. If you block something off on one end enough, it'll spit back the other direction. And sometimes, people that are trying to help you, you're getting up in their face. Some of that might be that backlash because you don't have that outflow. You need an output. So if you want help with this, if this is you, if you're ready to commit to this, drop overflow. In fact, if you drop the word overflow in the comments, I'll even send you a personal visibility insight into yourself. What you need to do right now is go live. Please tag me in the lives. I would love to come in and give you a heart, encourage you, tell you yay for doing it. Go for it. And then, yes, absolutely do come join us in the Visibility Amplifier community. That's a link that I got for you here a little bit ago. Come on, it's time to do it. Now is the time. Somebody's suffering in our silence, and it's not time to be silent anymore. Now is the time to speak, to do it, to show up, to be visible and valuable. I appreciate you. Thank you for being who you are. And thank you in advance, before you ever go live, thank you for doing it, because you're going to make a difference in somebody's life right now today. You may not even know it. They may never tell you, but you absolutely are. So go for it. Go live right now. Turn off this thing and go live right now. And until we're together again next time, I hope you have a great week.